from the shadows deep, where the mind and body meet. Every heartbeat pounds like thunder, a call to awaken, no time to wonder. Push the limit, feel the fire, one step closer, climbing higher. Warriors unleashed, breaking chains, chasing dreams, the power's in you. Let it scream, get inspired, stand tall, fight the beast, champions for life, warriors unleashed. Every scar's a story, every drop's a fight, sweat and soul under the light. Strength's not given, it's earned in flames. Through the storm, remember your name. Push the limit, feel the fire, one step closer, climbing higher. Warriors unleashed, breaking chains, chasing dreams, the power's in you. Let it scream, get inspired, stand tall, fight the beast, champions for life, warriors unleashed. Push the limit, feel the fire, one step closer, climbing higher. Warriors unleashed, breaking chains, chasing dreams, the power's in you. Let it scream, get inspired, stand tall, fight the beast, champions for life, warriors unleashed. Warriors unleashed. Warriors unleashed. Warriors
Well, there we go. Warriors out there in the Sims Nation, welcome once again to another edition of Warriors Unleashed. I am your host, Positively Pat Sims. It is great to have you guys here with us. We are live on WANT Radio, which you can listen to 24/7 via Live 365 or through WANTradio.com. So great way to listen to music, comedy, and some great programming from your boy right here, Positively Pat Sims, and one of our special guests tomorrow on the Positively Pat Sims show at 7 o'clock in the morning. My buddy Benny Scala is going to be joining us once again as we play another amazing game of the Squared Circle. I am so excited for tomorrow's show, but I'm also very excited about tonight's show because tonight I'm going to tell the full story of my experience on Let's Make a Deal. And not only am I going to be talking about that, but I'm also going to be filling you guys in on what in the heck Let's Make a Deal has to do with health, fitness, and mindset. Because it may sound a little strange on a inspirational, informational health and fitness show to talk about a game show. So, what's the deal? What's the dealio? Yeah, that I said it. And I know I said it. But throughout the show, guys, if you're watching us live streaming on YouTube, of course, we have our live chat available. So if you're watching us on your computer, on your smartphone, on your tablet, any device that allows you to access the live chat, please use that to interact with us here on the show. You can ask questions. You can talk to us. Whatever you want to do, be a part of the show. Make the show your own. All right, guys. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on for Warriors Unleashed. The group is continuing to grow on Facebook. If you haven't joined us, get on over to Facebook right now and look for Warriors Unleashed on Facebook. Join our Facebook group. We continue to grow week by week, and I'm hoping to continue that trend this week going into next week. So we welcomed all of our new members today. This week we had about 7 or 8 new members that joined up this week. So let's try to keep that streak going next week. If you haven't joined us, head on over to Facebook, look up Warriors Unleashed, answer the questions, and join the group. All right, let's make a deal. So what is this about? What are we talking about today? What does this have to do with Warriors Unleashed? Well, first, I got to tell you the backstory that got us to Let's Make a Deal. In 2021, as you guys well know, if you've watched the show before, you know that was the year that I took ownership of my life. That was the year that I used my nutrition, my DDPY, walking, better lifestyle, better mindset, changed everything about me to truly live my life. And in the course of 6 months, dropped 120 pounds, continued that success well into 2022, 23, 24, all the way up to today in January of 2026. I continue to work hard and live my life to the fullest. And before that, I wasn't. I was just sort of getting by on life while trying to, the best way that I could, try to help everybody else live theirs, because I kind of didn't see why I should be living mine. I didn't really feel like I was worth living. And so everything I did was trying to make everyone else feel better about whatever was going on. I spoiled my children. I spoiled my wife the best that I could, especially when I had the money to do so. And when everything took a nosedive in 2020 and in 2021, I said to myself, I've got to make this change. I've got to do something because I don't want to die young. And everything that I thought at the time, that my family doesn't need me, they're better off without me, all that stuff started to kind of dissipate. And I started to realize my family does need me and I need them. And I've got to do something. I've got to do something now to be successful. And I started my journey with my wife by my side as my support, my rock, she kept me in check for the majority of the time till I got my act together and was able to do it on my own. And just a couple of months in, I was starting to feel really, really good about my future, about where I was going, where I was heading. And during that time, I started making plans for things that I wanted to do once I had achieved more of my weight loss goal. Part of the video that you see there at the beginning of the show shows me skydiving, and that was the first thing I came up with was what's a big grand thing that I could do that would tell the world that I'm done sitting on the sidelines. I'm done watching everybody else live their life. I'm going to live mine, and this is how I'm going to show the world that I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump out of an airplane at 10,000 feet. And that's exactly what I did. And I started making plans for that early on in the process. I started doing that a lot, where I started thinking ahead of things that I wanted to do and things that would keep me focused and disciplined and keep me on track to doing and working hard to get where I wanted to get. And I was sitting at home during one of my little rest breaks. I might have been eating, I don't remember, but I know I turned on Paramount Plus and there was Let's Make a Deal. I hadn't watched Let's Make a Deal in years. And I turned it on and I was like, oh, this is fun. I forgot about this. You know, like it was always The Price is Right, followed by Let's Make a Deal, or one way or the other. It was those two shows I remember growing up, like watching those two shows. And I always liked Wayne Brady. You know, I always remember thinking, like, if I got on Price is Right, like, I would love to meet Drew Carey. I don't care about playing the game. I just want to meet Drew. But during one of the episodes on Paramount Plus, a thing popped up saying, do you want to be a guest on the show? And I thought, not now, but maybe later, right? Maybe after I've lost more weight, I'm more confident in myself, I feel better. And so I put in an application online to be on the show. And it wasn't very long before they contacted me back. Because what you have to do, I thought Let's Make a Deal was newer. I don't remember it at all as a kid. Yeah, actually, Let's Make a Deal has been around for a very, very long time. I think at some point it went on hiatus. But it started off a long time ago. And then I think it went away, and then I don't remember. And then it came back with Wayne Brady. As far as I know. I could be wrong. It could have always been going on. But I know Price is Right has pretty much always been around. But Let's Make a Deal, that might have been what it was older, and then it came. Monty Hall was the host. Yes, Monty Hall was the original. That's the one that I originally remembered. But I really liked Wayne's version. I thought it was really fun. I liked the whole cast that they have there. It's a really great experience. And so I put in the application, and during the application process, you have to give them a bunch of information. You have to make a video of yourself telling them why you want to be on the show. It's a whole like audition process that you have to go through. And back then when I did it, you're talking about 2021, when there were still a bunch of COVID restrictions in place. So Let's Make a Deal was not a huge audience full of people, and they would randomly pick people. Whoever got on the show, you were going to be a part of the show. There was no doubt. So I'm pretty sure they were much more picky about who they were grabbing and bringing in, as opposed to when they have a full studio audience. So I did my video. I put everything out there. And this was at about a point when I dropped maybe about 50 pounds, right? So we're only talking, again, maybe a couple months into my journey when I put in the application. They call me back for an interview relatively quickly. We're talking about maybe a week or less. It did not take long. And I did the interview just propping up my phone, trying to find a decent spot in my house where it looked like, interesting. And so I'm like standing in front of like one of my little cases like this that had some of my Funkos and stuff in it, thinking, I don't know, like maybe that'll look decent. And they start asking me a bunch of questions. And I know from watching the show that energy is very important to these people. It's really important that you bring the energy. And I'm sure it's the same with The Price is Right, which our boy Doc Haywood, who's going to be on the Positively Pat Sims show tomorrow for the Squared Circle. Welcome to the show, Doc. Doc, I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything because I can't remember if the episode's aired or not. So Doc, let me know if the episode's aired, but I'd love to tell the people uh, to when it airs if I can. But anyway, so I'm bringing as it has. I didn't think so because I would have. You think that's something I would have known and looked out for and watched on Paramount, but I brought as much energy as I could to the interview. So, like, what you see me doing on the show here is how I was during the interview. Just a lot of excitement, probably a lot. January 27th. So, Doc Haywood, check out Doc Haywood, January 27th. The price is right. You're not going to want to miss that. All right, back to it. So, I was giving it my all, probably rambling like I do here too, but they seemed to really enjoy the interview. They seemed to really have fun with me and everything like that. And they were like, I remember at the end of the interview, they're like, well, we definitely want to get you on, which I'm like, all right, there's a good sign. That's good. They definitely want to get me on. And so this was maybe, let's see, April, May, June, probably, let's just say it's July. Okay, let's just say it's around July when I did the interview. Just, I don't remember exactly, but I didn't hear anything until September. All right, and it was just before my birthday in September. I remember it because we were at Knott's Berry Farm, and we were there for my sister's birthday, and I'm walking through Knott's and I get a phone call, and it's the people from Let's Make a Deal. And they said, hey, can you come on next week and tape our Christmas episode? They wanted me for a special Christmas episode. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, they want me for a special episode. But I'm like, it's a week in advance. And in my line of work, I always like to do the right thing. I know there's ways around it where I could have been like, oh, I'll just call in the day before, say I'm sick, blah, blah, blah. I always like to do things the right way. So I literally told him, I said, look, I'm sorry. I need a little bit more notice than 1 week. If you can give me 2, I'll make it work, but I can't do it on such short notice. And I felt like there went my opportunity. It's out the door. I'm done. They're never going to call me back because I'm sitting here telling them to do for me, right? And why would they give me the time of day? There's no way my interview was so good that they're going to give me chance after chance to be on the show. And so I was like, there it went. And they were all nice about it. Okay, well, we'll call you back. We'll call you back. And I remember hanging up and I tell everybody like, oh, they're going to call me back. But then in my mind, I really am. I'm thinking like, nope. It's over. That fun little dream is over. But one of the things that had been doing this entire time is at my job. At the time, I was working as a security supervisor for Volcom, and it was at their main location out in Costa Mesa. I was working swing shift, which I hate, but at the same time, I really didn't have a whole lot to do. So I was able to walk pretty much all night. And so that's what I did. I just walked. And I remember starting off and I could maybe walk a couple of miles for the entire shift. And it got to the point where I was walking anywhere from 12 to 15 miles every single shift. That's 5 days a week that I was doing that. And it was great for my weight loss journey. Walking is highly underrated. And you can get very bored very easily walking, doing, so you listen to music, and so you try all these different things. One of the things I found to be most effective, so I started kind of getting in my own head, and I started envisioning everything I wanted to do. And I was looking into the future and imagining what it would be like to do this. Imagining what it would be like to do that. Imagine what it would be like to go to the DDP Yoga Performance Center. Imagine what it would be like to meet DDP, right? Imagine what it's going to be like when I jump out of the plane. And then I used to think about what it was going to be like being on Let's Make a Deal. And so what I did was I kept telling myself, I don't want to play a game. You're not going to play a game. You're going to make a deal. And you're going to make a good deal. You're going to make the right deal. I'm like telling myself what's going to happen. And the reasoning for that is every time I saw somebody play a game on Let's Make a Deal, 9 times out of 10, they lost. They didn't win anything. And I was like, I don't want that. And the next thing I said I didn't want was a car. I didn't want a car. I didn't want to pay taxes on the car. I didn't want to have to deal with the rising cost of this and this and this and this and this. I don't want to win a car. All right? I'm thinking more like, what can I win that would be good for everybody? What would be good? What would my wife like to see me win? And I remember thinking like, oh, I could win a pool table. My wife would love it if I won a pool table. A whole game, like a little gaming setup there, right? Even though we couldn't really fit it in our little apartment here. I remember thinking like, oh, it'd be really cool. Like, I might not want to win a car, but it'd be really cool to win a motorcycle. I'll win a motorcycle. Yeah, that's what I'll do. But I was, or just money. Just we could use money. So just I'll win money, right? But not a car. Not a car. That's too much. So I'm constantly doing that. Still kind of holding out hope that they do call me. And honestly, it was only like a week later, something like that. And they said, hey, we got a show. It's being taped in October. We want you to be a part of it. And I think it was 2 or 3 weeks away. And they're like, is that good? Can we book you for that? And I said, yes, book me. And I immediately called my work. I told them what was going on. And they're like, we would have let you go to the other one. And I'm like, no, but I wanted to make sure I did the right thing. So I put in my notice that I was going to be off. And they send you all the information. They tell you everything you need to know. They want you to send them a picture of what you're going to be dressed as so that they can tell you whether it's appropriate or not. And, of course, I am the original Pickle Pat. And so I had a giant pickle costume. And I dressed as Pickle Pat. And I took a picture of myself. I sent it in. They said, looks great. We can't wait to see you. Here's all the rest of the information that you need. Blah, 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 blah. Here's where to go and all this stuff. Here's when to get there and all this. And it's out in L.A. And I remember I was so excited. And I'm thinking to myself, I've never done anything like this. I have delivered vehicles to studios before when I worked for a company called Redhead. Yeah. And we used to deliver cars all over Southern California. And there was once when we had to deliver cars that were going to be used for The Price is Right, which was pretty cool. Now, this was a long time ago. And I thought wherever we delivered them to was just this little like warehouse area. And I thought, this must be where they store them. And then they shoot at the big studio. And so as I'm driving out there, I'm imagining this big studio and this fancy place that I'm about to head to. And I get to like downtown, like Burbank. And I'm like, what is this? Like, where am I? Like, I pull in and it's literally just this warehouse. That's all it is. It's just this warehouse. And I'm looking at it going, this can't be where we're going. I must be in the wrong spot. I'm looking up. Where am I in the right place? And then I see a couple. We're the first show of the day, by the way. I start to see some other people pull in. I roll down my window. I'm like, is this where we're supposed to be for Price is Right? And the guy puts out, I think so. What?
Let's make a deal.
Oh, let's make a deal. Sorry. I screwed up. Sorry. But anyway, so we're all just kind of like, yeah, I guess this is it. Guess this is the place. And I think a lot of us had this idea that this was going to be a much nicer location. And we see all this area off to the side, and I guess that's our check-in area, right? And some more people start arriving, and we start greeting everybody that's going to be on the show here. And the funny part is when you're on the show, there's all these restrictions. Once you go past the check-in part, there's all these restrictions. Until then, we're all just out in the parking lot mingling with no mask, no protection, no nothing. Because I'm like, frick, this is 2021 in October. Like, there were no real major restrictions to anything anymore. And where there was, it was ridiculous at that point. right? And so we were all just kind of hanging out, and then they let us go through it. And then we have to put masks on. We got to do this. We got to do that. And we go through the check-in process, and they have all your information right there. And I walk in, and they're like, okay, name, and I show them, and they're like, they're looking at my image from my, from everything that I did. They're looking at my image, and then they're like, hold on, and they pulled up the picture of me in the pickle costume and said, well, that looks like you now, but who's this? Like I'm somebody else. And I'm like, oh, that's when I applied. I'm like, but I've lost like 70 pounds since that picture. And they were just in shock. They were just like, what? Like, okay. And they start taking notes right away. They're putting notes on my paper. And so they start the check-in thing. They get me checked in. Then they take me to this little tent cubicle that does nothing, by the way. And I'm not like a conspiracy guy or nothing, but if COVID was a threat at this point, this little tent that I'm in by myself would do nothing. All right? Nothing. Because everybody was just kind of leaning in and talking to the people next to them anyway. Or we would stick our head around the corner and talk to each other. And there was one guy in particular, he was dressed kind of like a mad scientist, not quite Rick from Rick and Morty, but he looked kind of like that. But he was a young kid, like 18, 19 years old. And we got to talking while we're waiting for all this stuff to happening. And he's telling me about himself. I'm telling him about me. And I got to really like the kid. And I thought he was really cool. I thought he was a really nice kid. And I just wanted good things to happen to him while he was here. I thought, this kid deserves this. So I turned to him and I said, look, I go, you're going to do well today. I go, and you're going to win the big deal today. I promise you, you're going to win the big deal today. And that's a tough promise to make. But I'm just trying to make this kid happy to be here. You know what I mean? He was really nervous and everything. So I'm just like, dude, you're taking it home today. You're winning the whole thing. All right. And now they're walking around. And I can hear them talking to people, but I don't quite know exactly what they're saying because I'm just hanging out. I'm just enjoying my time. I remember taking a selfie next to the picture that said, let's make a deal in my little area. And I have to be in costume, by the way, the whole time. The entire time. I not during check-in, but as soon as I get into this little room, I have to put my costume on. And I have to leave it on the whole time. And they give you like a thing to put on it that's got your name on it, a little sticker. And then the lady comes in, and again, like, okay, I guess the restrictions are kind of for, view, if someone were to walk by and see everything, because her mask wasn't even on, nothing. So it's like, what was the point? And she comes in and she starts asking me questions. She's asking me about, things about me. And what are some things that I find very important? What's some things I want to talk about? And of course, I want to give a shout out to my family. I want to be like, I want to say hi to my wife and my kids back home and all this stuff, which everybody does. All right. So the one thing I found out for sure about these things is they want you to not just bring a lot of energy, but they need you to be different. They want you to be unique and stand out. Okay, the more unique you are, the more you stand out, the better your chances are of getting up there at a good spot, because they really do. They think ahead of where they want you to be on that particular show. If Wayne picks you, I can almost guarantee it ain't by random. They're telling him, okay, for this game, pick this person or pick that couple or whatever the case may be. Or go to the home, the people playing at home on their computers, because we were still doing that, where guys were joining in like on Zoom or whatever it was, and so she's like, well, I see here that you lost a lot of weight. How much weight did you lose? I said, well, I lost 120 pounds, and she's like, holy smoke! She says, we need, tell me about it. How'd you do it? And I said, well, I go, I do this program called DDP Yoga. And she's like, oh, well, what's that? And I said, well, I go, here's a little background here. I grew up a pro wrestling fan, huge pro wrestling fan. And, Wayne Brady, he was on Raw. And she's like, yeah, he was. And I'm like, yeah, I remember that. Like, he got an RKO from Randy Orton. I remember him being on Raw. That's how big of a fan of pro wrestling I am. And when I needed to make this change in my life, I go back to pro wrestling. And it's because of pro wrestling that I found DDP Yoga through Diamond Dallas Page, being a fan. And I do the program. I still do the program. I've taken my life back, and I've done a lot of great things ever since, and this is part of that. And she was just like, okay, that's what we're going to talk. And now she starts coaching me on, okay, if Wayne asks you this, what's your response? And then I was, okay, well, say this. Okay, now if he says this, what are you going to say? Well, I'll say this. And she was like, okay, just a couple tweaks. And she would tweak it a little bit. And I was, if I went too long, it was because I tried to throw my family's names in there. I tried to say my wife and kids. Anytime I threw my wife and kids into the picture, they're like, okay, you're going on. You're going too long, right? We got to keep it short. Because they try to film it as if it's live. So they don't want to go through and edit the show very much. They want to just show it as is, record it as is. Now, I know for a fact it's still edited, and I'll tell you why I know that in just a moment. But so she's really being like, you have to be succinct with your answers. So stick with what you've been saying and just keep it that way. All right. You're going to get nervous. And so that's the only time we really need you to kind of hone it in. All right. And really remember what I'm telling you. And then she comes back later and just kind of reiterates that and goes over it one more time. Like, they're really sticklers for that. They really don't want you going off the cuff during the show. They don't in this part of it. Now, they want you with that live feel. They want you to go off the cuff in terms of making decisions and how you make decisions. But when you're asked a question, you're not supposed to ad lib and just go off. All right. And I get that. I understand that. You got a guy like me, you let him go, you'll be there for a while. You're going to have to edit things for a while. So now we're all herded in, right? Everyone's gone through the process. We all get herded in. And I'm waiting again to just see the most beautiful studio in the world. And it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's great. But I'm thinking this thing's going to be massive. It's going to be huge. And it just not quite. There were some tears in the carpet. I know I saw duct tape on the floor in a few places that wasn't a marker just to hold something down. Like, budget conscious is a good word for it. It's like, let's make this look as awesome as it can on television while being as budget conscious as we can in person. All right. And you could bring like snacks and drinks and you could put them behind your little booth that you were sitting in. Right? Everybody had a little section, their own little personal area, and you would sit in it, and you could put stuff behind it off camera. And when the show was on, you could take your mask. This is funny. All right. I'm not joking here. When the show is rolling, you could take your mask off and participate in the show. Whenever they cut, like they're cutting to reset things or like it's a commercial break, you had to put your mask back on. All right. And that's in case someone was to come over to you and talk to you or something like that. But you weren't supposed to leave your pod. You couldn't leave to go talk to somebody else, right? But you had to put your mask back on. And somebody like me, insecurity and safety and health and all that stuff, who was like, yeah, I get some of this stuff. Like, I'm sitting there going, what are we doing? Like, this is stupid. Like, even for me, it was like, this is ridiculous. But anyway, we sit down, we each get in our spots. I don't remember if I brought like really anything. I know I brought stuff because they tell you what to bring for those things that they do at the end where they're like, oh, do you have some cherry lipstick? Right? Like they'll ask you that at the end of the show. Well, for us, they gave it away before. They would put a thing out to us and they tell us, "Oh, here's what you need to bring for that special thing in the end." So we all, whoever brought stuff, we would put that behind us in the pod. And what was really cool is we all tried to help each other. Throughout the entire show, we were all helping each other. And there were a couple of people who forgot their stuff for the end of the show. So everybody that participated in the show, we all made a deal that if we participated, we would give that person our stuff. Like before we ended the show, like if we did our bit, we would take our little baggie full of stuff and we would just toss it to them and be like, here, like, hold on to that. And at the end of the show, you'll have what you need, right? We helped each other like that. And it was really, really cool. So we get seated. Now they're telling us how this is going to work. And they're telling us we're going to shoot it like it's live. We're going to have commercial breaks where we reset. We're going to have this, we're going to have that. They go, sometimes, and this is where the editing part comes in. They go, sometimes mistakes happen. Or sometimes the prize that you win isn't there. So if the curtain opens, your prize might not be there, but we usually have like a big television that's showing you what the prize is. And usually that's how it works with cars. If you win a car, then you'll see a picture of it. You won't actually see the car. They'll edit that in later. And so they're like, in between, we're going to play music. The guy right here, he's going to be your DJ. You know, just keep bringing that energy, just constant energy. Now, this is first thing in the morning. All right. You got to be a very capable person, you know, willing to get up, you know, that early in the morning and bring the energy and sustain it for the amount of time that we were there. And so every time, and they're looking at you, they're watching you to see who's bringing it and who's not. And I'm dancing like an idiot the entire time, right? And they want you to make sure, like, that, you know, if you get called up, that doesn't mean you stop. Doesn't mean you stop dancing. Keep dancing. Keep going. All right? And so that's what we all did. We all had fun. We're watching each other, and we're kind of like dance-offs against each other, and I'm looking like an idiot over there, but just having fun. And that's what really the experience was. It was just about having fun. And we, again, that's something we all kind of were talking to each other about. And we were kind of helping each other out. Like, you know, hey, you know, if we don't win, have fun, right? And there was also a thing, and I don't remember off the top of my head. It was the only thing I kind of am hazy on. But they said if you don't win, right, I think it's like you don't necessarily leave empty-handed. Like, they'll give you something just for showing up. But it wasn't much. It was maybe $100, something like that. I don't remember. But they tried to make it feel like no matter what happens, you're going to be all right. You know, you're not going to go home empty-handed. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I don't care. If I don't win, I'm not going home empty-handed because this is amazing. I'm having so much fun here. And, you know, the guy that I was talking to earlier, who I told was going to win, he's just off to my right. And I keep giving him the thumbs up and stuff. So we start the show. And I'm like, hey, I'm the most charismatic one here, man. I'm gonna go up right off the bat. And excuse me. They start the show. Wayne comes out. It's awesome to see Wayne. And he starts calling people up, and they're not me. And I'm on camera a lot. My shot, like where I'm sitting, is on camera a lot. And I don't again, just off the top, I should have written all this down. I don't remember the date that mine aired, so I can't tell you, you know, if you can even look it up, you know, what to look up. But I just know it was January of 2022, and I know I would know it when I saw it right away. And again, I'm right there, like the whole show. You can see me, and I'm like, and I'm like a little puppy dog in the back, and I'm watching people get up there and make deals. and they're going crazy making deals. And this one lady gets up. Now she's going to play a game. She's not making a deal. She's going to play a game. And I'm like, oh, this poor lady. And she's doing the one where you have to pick the right key, and it unlocks the lock, and she'll win like, I think 10 grand, something like that. But she wins a ton of money if she gets it right. I don't remember if it was 10 or more or whatever, but she actually does it. She goes in and she unlocks this sucker, and we all lose our minds because I'd never seen that before. I've been watching the show for a little while now. I'd never seen anybody actually unlock that thing, and we all just went nuts. We were so happy for this lady, and she was ecstatic. She goes back, and the truth be told, this was a very successful episode for the contestants. I believe there were only 2 zonks on my entire episode that meant you didn't win anything. One was a couple, and the couple got a little greedy. They were dressed as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And they were nice people, but they were the only ones that left like a little bummed, right? Like you could tell for the rest of the show that they were like, "Yay, good job," and then like their demeanor just changed because they were the only ones in the studio that didn't walk away a winner. And I know I'm kind of spoiling it for what happens with me, but it's true. And even the at-home guys, I believe only one of them was unsuccessful. Everybody else won, all right? And my little buddy gets up there, and he wins like a trip to Vegas and a motor scooter. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, what's he going to do with the trip to Vegas? He's not 21 yet. Like, Vegas is cool if you're me. Right? If you're me and my wife, a trip to Vegas is cool. But I didn't really feel like that was going to work for him. But I was happy. I was like, dude, the little motor scooter he got, that was cool. Like, I'd take that. It was nice. It was a nice one. And we keep going through the show. Everybody's winning. Everybody's having fun. And we're sitting there during one of the breaks, and we're all dancing, and I'm looking the fool. And out comes this match game board, and I remember vividly seeing that thing and thinking to myself, now's not the time. Do not call on Pickle Pat. Do not call on Pickle Pat. I do not want to play this game. I'll take a consolation prize at the end of the show. I do not want to play this game because I'm walking out of here with nothing. That's exactly what went through my head. And so the thing comes up. I still have to act like I want to be called. So when he says, who wants to make a deal, everybody has to stand up and flip out. So it's exactly what I did. And so he points at me and he says, Pickle Pat, come on down. And even if you don't want to go up there, again, you have to act like this is the greatest moment in your life. That the birth of your children is not as important as this very moment right here. So I did my job. I flipped out, which, I mean, I was happy. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's thrilling. All right. But I'm just sitting there going, all right, I know I ain't winning. So let's just have fun with it. And of course, Wayne's like, what's one thing we need that America needs to know about Pickle Pat? And knowing that this was going to get viewed on national television, millions of people watching, I can't say my wife and kids. So I do as I'm coached to do, and it came out like I was reading a script. It was like, I'm a lifelong WWE fan. I remember watching you on Monday Night Raw, and Wayne's like, all right. And I said, and because of that, I found DDP yoga, and I lost 120 pounds since Easter. And I was very careful to say since Easter because I thought, like, if I said 6 months, there'd be a lot of people that are like, oh, that's too fast, right? Like, I cared about what people might have thought. But if I say since Easter, if this airs in 2 or 3 months, it's going to sound like a much longer period of time. So I said since Easter. And so I get going, and Wayne's like, "You did all that with yoga," not realizing like, oh, Dallas might not like to hear that I'm letting him get away with calling it yoga. But I'm like, yeah. But when it aired, I remember thinking like, this is pretty awesome because when it aired, I had already been named a 2021 DDPY positive. What happened to my headphones? I can't hear me, but it's going through, so it must just be my headphones. Hold on. Time out, people. It's reading. It's just not reading in my headphones. That's weird. Check. Yeah. I am dead quiet in my ears. It's hard to hear me. Okay, hold on. Check. There we go. I'm back. All right. So something happened with the connection with my mic. I just unplugged it, replugged it back in. We are good to go. That's called troubleshooting, people. Keeping your cool. Taking care of the problem. But we are back. Back to normal volume. Normal view. Okay. So, where was I? What was I talking about?
You had already become a champion.
I'd already become a champion. That's right. So when it aired in January of 2022, I know you pay attention. When it aired in January of 2022, I was already a DDPY champ. So I remember getting a video from Nadia and Steve of them sitting in the offices over at the Performance Center watching Let's Make a Deal on television and watching me promoting DDPY on national television with Wayne Brady. So that was a cool moment. It was a cool moment. And I think that needs to be shown across DDPY all the time, constantly. Pat Sims, plugger of DDPY on national television. Pickle Pat, anyway. But yeah, it was funny. It was pretty cool. Samantha Wright, yes, that is awesome. Thank you very much. It was very awesome. So now it's my turn to play the game. All right. And I'm in my 40s, right? And I have good memory, I think. But you've always heard there's a difference between playing the game at home and playing the game in the moment when you're on the show. Like, I know people who think that they're Jeopardy experts, but if you were to put them under the lights and actually put them on Jeopardy, they'd be in the negatives, right? It's a whole different ball game. And I know this. Like, I'm thinking, like, this is what I've been told over and over. It's completely different. And so my expectations are still super low. I'm just going to have fun. So the board turns around, okay? You get to see everything. If you have half a brain, you look at where the zonks are. Well, I don't have half a brain, so I'm looking for number values. I'm looking at where's the $1,500? Where's the $2,000? Where's the $500? Okay, and I remember 15 and 5. I remember the 1500s. I remember the 500s. And then I see a couple other things. Board turns around, and everything outside of that just goes blank. All of it. Just gone. And I'm like, oh, crap. I really hope these guys behind me were paying attention. So I pick, and I believe right off the bat, I get the $1,500. Because I remember that. I got $1,500. Now, you have to match 2 zonks to lose. So you don't, if you turn over 1, you're still safe. All right. But I've got 1,500 ready to go. If I can stop now, which would be stupid, or I can keep playing. I keep playing. I get another 5. Now I got $2,000 in the bank. Good to go. All right. No zonks yet. And so I keep playing. I think I got a couple other little things. No zonks yet. And somebody behind me knows where the other curtain number, I believe it's 3, knows where that curtain is on the board and starts screaming it at me. Not on the show, you can't really hear that, which was shocking to me because in my ears, this girl was loud. She was like, tell, like screaming it at me. And so I'm like, I'm going with that one. I'm going to say that one. I think it was 2. I think is what it was. Because I know it's at like the top of the board to the left. And they turn it around and it's curtain 2, or curtain 3. So now I'm going to win whatever's behind curtain number 3. And I remember getting all excited, like it's my motorcycle or it's the pool set for my wife, something, right? Not a car, right? So the curtain opens up. I see a giant television set with a picture of a car on it. My first thought is, I want a giant television set. And I hear the announcer say, a new car. And I didn't care what car it was. I lost my gourd. I went nuts. And you can see me on the video. I flip out, which I cannot show here for copyright purposes. But I mean, I'm losing it. Absolutely losing it. At this point, I forgot that I didn't want to win the car. I'm like, oh, hell yeah. I just want a freaking car. On Let's Make a Deal, bro. I was so happy. And I was so happy, and you can actually see it, again, if you watch it back, my hands are like covering my face, right? I'm like this, and my fingers are right at the base of my eyes. And I'm just kind of rubbing a little bit there. The reason is I am crying in that moment. And I am not a pretty crier. I am an ugly crier. And I know that I'm an ugly crier. So I'm covering up like this to hide the fact that I am weeping on air. And it's tears of joy, yes, but it's a moment. Okay? And this is where it kind of ties into health, fitness, mindset, right? Because when you work for something, when you fight to take your life back, when you fight to achieve the kind of success that you didn't think you were worthy of, you thought you weren't even worth living, right? Everything was looking down in your life, and you make a decision to turn your life around. And from April to October, you go from being 300 pounds, or me, being 300 pounds, in and out of the hospital, bad heart, bad blood pressure, everything's going wrong. I have, at that point, I'm still miserable at my job because I'm grossly underpaid at a place that, even though I liked working there, it was a nice place to work, I was grossly misused and underused, undervalued, and all that stuff. And then in October, I'm standing in front of Wayne Brady on a television set, winning a new car. It was a fairy tale to me. That to me is that fairy tale story, that rags to riches story. Now, I'm not rich. That didn't make me rich or anything, but what a moment. When you want something, and all I wanted was to live my life. I didn't want a car. I didn't need a car. I didn't want a new car. I didn't need to win a ton of money there. I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to go, and I just wanted to have an experience and do something that I was too ashamed to do for most of my life. Something that was tailor-made for a guy like me. And I went there, and I was rewarded for it. And it reminded me of my worth in this world. Not because I won a car, but because it reminded me that when you do the right thing in life, when you do good in this world, then good things happen to you. When you fight for what is right, and you fight for your faith, your family, all the good things in this world, then those good things come back to you. And it was a moment. And I still wasn't done playing. I wasn't. I was still playing. And I get to go again. And I think it was immediately after that, a zonk comes on the board. And again, you have to match a zonk. So I could keep going if I wanted. I could tempt fate if I wanted. But I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the fact that I just won a $20-some thousand Ford EcoSport, which I was saying it's, after I looked up what it was, I'm like, maybe I'll just say no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. And $2,000. I see the zonk, and I turn to Wayne. Wayne's like, you want to play? And I turned to him, and I said, I'm a winner already. I'm like, I'm good. I'm going to take a seat. I'm going to keep what I got. And he was like, good choice. And I sat back down, and the show goes on. We move on. It was amazing. It was incredible. It was a moment. But that's not the end of the story. Because the end of the story gets even better. In my opinion, it gets even better. So we keep going. Now we're at the end of the show. And at the end of the show, Let's Make a Deal does the big deal of the day. All right? And so the person with the highest win total, right? If you won a car, they take what the car's worth, plus any money you might have won, anything else, put it all together. Whoever is the highest gets to play the big deal of the day. And the big deal of the day is worth whatever they tell you it is. All right? I am the highest total earner with my car and $2,000. I think I was at 23 and change. They call my name. Wayne calls my name and says, Pat, you want to play the big deal of the day? And I said, Wayne, thank you for everything. I'm happy with what I have. I'm passing on the big deal of the day. I thought, wouldn't it sound a little greedy? Even though I said I don't want to win a car, wouldn't it sound a little greedy if I'd have given up a car and $2,000 to go for the big deal of the day? And I'm like, nope. I'm going to take what I got and be happy, thankful. So they go to the next person in line. The next person in line was the lady that unlocked the lock with the key. So she's got guaranteed cash in pocket. And she says, I'm not taking the big deal of the day. That was a little, okay. Some people were pretty surprised at that. But who do we go to next? None other than my buddy. My mad scientist buddy. My Transformer fan. Who my son would have been a buddy of too, by the way. And they asked him, do you want to do the big deal today? And he says, I'm taking the big deal. And I remember looking over at him after he said that, and he looked at me like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. And I'm like, big deal winner. And I'm thinking, did I just predict it? Did I predict it? So I always knew that if I was going to do the big deal of the day, I would pick curtain number 3 because my wife and my 2 sons. 3. Okay. I don't remember what curtain number 1 was, so don't ever ask me. I'd have to go watch the show in its entirety again. But I remember 2 and I remember 3. Well, my buddy over here picks curtain number 3 as well. We open curtain number 1, and I don't remember what it was, which means it couldn't have been anything too great. But I remember them opening number 2, and it was like a billiards room. It was a gaming room type of thing where it had this giant, great looking pool table and all this stuff. And I remember thinking like, there it is. There's the pool table. And so now we're up to curtain number 3, and we already know, based on curtain 1 and curtain 2, that my buddy that I predicted to him was going to win the big deal of the day. We now know for a fact he's taken home the big deal of the day. Is it cash? What could it be? Curtains opens. It's this beautiful Jeep Wrangler. And I was like, that is a gorgeous looking truck or Jeep. And I'm not a big Jeep guy. I like the old school Jeeps. They're loud and abrasive, but there's something about them. The old school ones, you would take that big thing off the back of it, and it was a convertible. I liked them. I like those. I'm not a big fan of the new stuff, but boy, was he happy. And I got to live off of that energy for quite a while. Not just from my experience, but just to be able to, like, he and I talked after the show, and he was like, I can't believe it. You were right. And I'm like, I know. No, it was incredible. I was like, I was just trying to make you feel good to be here. Like, but maybe I should say stuff like that more often. You're going to do it. You're going to win it. You're going to take it. Maybe I'm good luck charm for people. I don't know. Who knows? But it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And they give you all this information. Like, you don't get anything unless the episode airs. So until the episode airs, if you win anything, you don't see any of it until that point. And if the episode doesn't air, guess what? You don't get it. And that kind of sucks to think that there are people out there who maybe went on the show and won, but maybe the show was crap, or maybe there were a lot of technical glitches and issues with the show because of how they shoot it, and it was unusable. There's always things that happen. Sometimes the contestants ruin it. You're not allowed to talk about it beforehand. You're not allowed to tell anybody what happened or anything like that. So you got to be careful. And they can pull the episode just for you spilling the beans on what happens. So we have to be very, very careful about who we talk to. And of course, I'm going to tell my wife on the drive home. I'm going to tell my wife what happened. And it was just absolutely, absolutely incredible. And just a quick ending to how this all went down. So the episode, I get notified the episode's going to air in January 2022. Again, I'm letting everybody know. I'm seeing videos of people. Some friends of mine DVR'd it, sent me the entire episode, so I've got that on my hard drive. And it was incredible. It was just such a great moment to watch it, watch it back. And then shortly after that, I got my check in the mail from Let's Make a Deal, $2,000. And I got a phone call from a car dealership here in Irvine, the Ford dealer here in Irvine. And he's like, all right, let's talk about your new car. And I'm like, I don't want that car. And I had done my research, and I had found out that they're going to get paid for that car, right? And what you can do is you can say, I don't want that car, I want this car. And they'll take the money that they would have gotten for the one you won, and they can put it towards the other car that you get. You just can't do it with a used car. That was my original plan. Get a used car and basically get it for free. Right? And trade in my current car and just walk in, thank you very much, walk out. Right? But you can't do that. You can't do the used car thing. So you can do a new car. And the last time I owned a truck was for a few months in 2004, I think it was. Either 2004 or 2005. And it was a used truck. It was a used Ford F-150. And I just couldn't. I went in over my head. Gas was going up at that time, and I just couldn't afford it. And so I traded in, got something else. And thanks to a buddy that worked for the dealership. And I love trucks, and I'd always wanted to have a truck. And there's a lot more to the story behind why I really needed, and still to this day kind of need to be in bigger vehicles, which I'll talk about another time. But I really want a truck. So I wanted the Ford Maverick, which is a newer truck at that time. They were hard to find, and I wanted the hybrid version so that I could get better gas mileage and all that fun stuff. And the guy's like, it's not a good truck. He's like, you want a truck? You want F-150 or a Ranger. And I'm like, well, the F-150s are way too expensive. The gas mileage is way too low. I go, I'll take a look at the Ranger. And so he takes me out to see the Rangers because I think they only had one Maverick anyway in stock, and it wasn't even the hybrid model. And if it's not the hybrid model, it's really not worth getting, in my opinion. It's just not. It's not that great of a truck, like I said. It's a kind of a cross between a truck and a car. And so it's a little disappointing in that respect. So we go over to the Rangers, and there's two that stand out. There's a red sport model, and then there's a blue standard model. I go over to the red truck, look at the price tag. Okay. Go back over to the blue truck, and it's higher. The non-sport model, just a basic blue, no fancy bells and whistles, was higher in price. And I looked at him and said, why? And he goes, I don't know. So we went back to my favorite color of red, the sport model. And I said, okay, let's get this figured out. And I had my SUV. And what I had done, again, I'm tricky sometimes, a little sneaky. I had reached out to one of those car places that'll come out and pay you for your car, right? And I told them what kind of car it was, the condition it was in, all this stuff. And they said, they over the phone told me, we'll give you X amount, right? So I go, okay, wrote it down. When I go to Ford, they go, we'll give you about $8,000 less. And I said, well, these guys are going to give me this amount. So I'm going to go that route. And then I'll come back and we'll make the deal when I come back. Well, that's a big no-no in the car industry. You do not let them walk away. Okay, I know this, right? You do not let them walk away. If they're interested, you keep them there, you make the deal, they leave in the vehicle that you're trying to sell them. They don't leave in their own car and tell you they're going to come back later. All right? Even though this is kind of different, which it really is a different situation, but they're still treating it the same. And so I go, well, this is what they're going to give me. They come back, they give me another counter offer that's like $3,000 or $4,000 underneath. And I said, no. I go, why? Why would I take that? I don't need the truck today. I'll go get the full amount from these guys. I'll come back. I'll get the truck in a few days. Fine. We'll give you what they're offering you for the SUV. I'm like, okay. All right, then let's get this rolling. Let's get going with this. And so we work out everything. How much am I going to be paying a month? Which the reality is what I'm paying per month and is dirt cheap for a new vehicle. Dirt cheap. Like, I wouldn't have been paying this when I first started driving and I bought a brand new car. I would not be paying what I'm paying right now per month. And I called my wife. I said, this is what it is. I go, it's either that, we can do that, or I can just end it all right here and just leave in the car I have. All right. Which, by the way, one of the reasons why I was so up for this wasn't just that I wanted a new truck and I really, really wanted this truck, but also my SUV had already had 2 factory recalls. I had a Nissan SUV, and it already had 2 factory recalls on it that were a little worrisome, to be honest with you. And I was worried about what was next to come. And a lot of people make fun of Ford, but I've always been a big fan of Ford trucks. I think Ford trucks are awesome. And so my wife told me to do it, and it's the greatest vehicle I've ever owned in my life. It is. It's by far, it is still I love driving it. I love getting in it. I love driving it. I'm comfortable. I'm happy. I love being in that truck. And I was just telling my wife earlier because she was like, she took her car through a car wash, and it had been so long that it was hard to get everything off of it. And she's like, I'm just more concerned. I'm happier taking care of your new truck than my older car. And I remember thinking, and I told her, I'm like, it's kind of funny that we still call it the new truck, and it's 4 years old now. Like, we're a year away from having it paid off already. Like, that's crazy to me that we've already owned it for that long, and it still runs beautifully. Like, I'm still getting really good gas mileage for a truck on it. It still runs just like it did when I first got it, and we've taken care of it, obviously. But yeah, I love that truck. The only thing we need to do is we're trying to figure out get a couple new tires for the front here soon. But other than that, runs like a charm. So that's what happened. That's how I got my truck. That's the story of Let's Make a Deal. But again, how does that fit into health and fitness? Well, without me going on my health and fitness journey, this story never happens. That's how life is. Life is not just, to me, a bunch of random coincidences that just happen to you over here and here and here and here. Everything is cause and effect. Everything has a purpose in your life. Everything happens for a reason. I wanted to live my life. I did something about it, and then I lived it. And to this day, I'm still living it. My wife and I, one of the things we love to do is things we've never done before. Something, and it could be something that's similar to what we've done before, but different enough to make it feel unique and new. Something we try, and even if we don't like it, we did something new. We did something different, right? Tomorrow, I'm going to a place I've never been before. I'm going to a steakhouse to have what's supposed to be the greatest steak ever, and I'm a tough sell because I think I make the best steak ever. But I'm going to let them prove me wrong. All right. My wife and I are going to dress up in brand new outfits that we got ourselves. And then after that, later on that night, we're going to a beautiful candlelit quartet concert where they're going to play the best music of Hans Zimmer, who, of course, wrote the scores for movies like Gladiator, Pirates of the Caribbean, Man of Steel, The Lion King, amongst others. So really, really looking forward to that. It's going to be a great day as we celebrate 18 years of marriage. And it's another achievement that wouldn't have happened if I don't get my act together, if I don't get my life in check, if I don't get my health in check, if I don't get my mind right. And it's not to say we wouldn't be married, unless she might have left me by this point, but it's because I might not even be here. It's not about us whether we'd still be married. It's would I still be alive? That's the real question. And that's not one that I want to put and make it a question anymore. Right? If I'm going to take as much control over me being alive on this earth as I can, and while I'm here, I'm going to live that life to the fullest. I always say God didn't give me gifts. God didn't give me my talents and my abilities, didn't give me this life to waste any of it. And so I'm not going to do that anymore. And being on Let's Make a Deal reminded me so much of everything that I'd been through and reminded me of who I am. I'm someone who likes making other people feel good. And so I gave a young man hope that he was going to win the big deal of the day, and then he did. And I think there's part of that is that I planted the idea in his head. And it helped make that reality. I kept saying, I don't want to do this. I don't think I can do this. Other people don't do this. They're not successful at it. Why would I be successful at it? And then I was shown you can be successful at anything you want to be successful at. Just because someone else failed at it doesn't mean that you will. You can take countless examples of how this show and the story of me being on this show is important in health, fitness, and mindset. I made what I felt was the right decision turning down the Christmas show because of my work. But it turned out to be the right decision for me because the show I got on was wonderfully successful for everyone involved, including me. If I'd have gone on the Christmas show, I might not be talking about the story as glowingly. You never know. I still would have had fun. I still would have had fun. But would I be driving my new truck? Would I have this kind of a story to tell? Probably not. It'd be a whole different story. And I like this one. I like the way things worked out. I like the way everything's worked out. Who gets to live this kind of life? Only people that take ownership of it. Only people who take control of it. You take control, then you jump out of an airplane. A month after that, you'd go on a game show. A month after that, you're flying to Georgia to become a DDPY champ. A month after that, you're celebrating one of the greatest Christmases because you're finally healthy and happy enough to enjoy it. And having a little bit of extra cash in your pocket to give your family some nice things, that always helps. And it just got better and better and better because a month after that, my show aired. A month after that, I'm getting my truck, and I'm getting my money. Then a month after that, then I'm getting my truck because I think it was March, if I remember correctly. It was just better and better. I even look at my shoulder surgery in 2023. That wasn't a bad thing. Without that, I'm not where I am today. I'm doing amazing things today on a fake shoulder. And I have no pain. Right now, I feel nothing in my shoulder. And that's wonderful because I used to be 24/7 pain. I smiled through the 24/7 pain because at least I was happy, but I was hurting. Now, I got the best of everything. And tomorrow I get to celebrate that with the person in this world that I love more than anybody else. And I'm looking forward to it. The other thing I'm looking forward to tomorrow is the Positively Pat Sim Show right here on WANT and live streaming, of course, again on YouTube with our live chat where we are going to be playing another edition of The Squared Circle. This time it is our Royal Rumble edition as we start gearing up for the 2026 Royal Rumble, which will be in just 2 weeks. So we've got this week, the Squared Circle. Next week, we're going to be revisiting all of our favorite Royal Rumble moments and talking about the impact that the Royal Rumble has had. And then we do our preview show for the 2026 Royal Rumble the week after that. So a lot of great stuff coming from the Positively Pat Sim Show. Stay tuned to Warriors Unleashed. We got a lot of great content coming your way. We're going to look at bringing in new guests and a lot of cool things. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, get over to Facebook and join Warriors Unleashed on Facebook. Also, you're going to want to check this out, guys. Our merch store. That's right. We are adding new stuff. Finally, we've got brand new iPhone MagSafe cases featuring all of our logos, including our 2 new logos, Game Night and At the Movies, 2 shows that are going to be kicking off here in just a couple of months. Game Night will probably kick off first, and then At the Movies after that. We've also got this awesome t-shirt that features all of the logos as well. And don't forget about this amazing framed canvas art, people. Starting at $50, going all the way to the $110 version that's 2 feet by 3 feet. Who wouldn't want that in their living room? That's amazing, isn't it? It's awesome. And as we scroll down, the Warriors Unleashed stuff is now flushed with merch. We've got Warriors Unleashed, high top canvas shoes, baseball jerseys, basketball jerseys, AirPod cases. We've got our Christmas ornament. We've got athletic shoes, purses, t-shirts. We've got stickers, yoga mats, and our button-up shirt. And the button-up shirt, for those of you watching on YouTube, I want to show you this. Check this out. So you see the Warriors Unleashed logo there. On the back, it says health, fitness, mindset. It says Warriors Unleashed on each sleeve. It is an awesome-looking button-up shirt. I got mine on the way. I am so happy. So once I get it, I will be wearing it right here on the show. I had a lot of fun with you guys. I love telling that story. I've never told it from beginning to end like that. It's always been kind of bits and pieces where I'll talk about being on the show or I'll just talk about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I've never told it from beginning to end in full detail like that. So you guys have any more questions? You have anything you want to say? Leave those in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe to us and follow us here on YouTube so that you can never miss an episode of Warriors Unleashed or the Positively Patch Sims Show or our upcoming shows, Game Night and At the Movies. We're going to have it all right here and now. Last thing before we go. Good news. The Positively Patch Sims YouTube channel has finally, thanks to you guys, finally reached its first tier of monetization here on YouTube. We have already applied for it this morning. It's going to take a little time, but what does this mean for you guys? It means that we can start offering memberships. That's really kind of it. So what's cool there is if we offer memberships, it means we can also offer exclusives to members. That could be exclusives in terms of live shows, taped highlights, anything that we want to put behind the membership wall. But for right now, we're really not going to go there. Our main goal is to reach tier 2, which will allow us to monetize based on advertisements through YouTube. That's where we're really heading. We're not going to worry about putting anything behind a paywall right now because we're still trying to grow our shows and our content. And if we do that already right off the bat like this, might push some people away. We don't want to do that. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for me, Positively Pat Sims, on this edition of Warriors Unleashed. We'll see you next week. And don't forget what we always tell you on this show. What we always say is get inspired to be an inspiration. We'll see you next week right here on WANT and live streaming on YouTube. But I will also see you tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern for the Positively Pat Sims show.
The lights are dim, but the room still hums with the echoes of